Hello, this is Justin Williams. I'm joined by former Wolfpacker and current Canadian pro football player, former defensive end Mike Rose. And we're going to talk about NC State's 31-20 victory over Duke in Carter Finley Stadium yesterday. But before we get started, this podcast is brought to you in part by JFQ Lending. With interest rates below 3%, there has never been a better time to lock in a low fixed interest rate on your mortgage. You'll never need to think about refinancing again. Set it and forget it. And with JFQ Lending, you are guaranteed to get the highest level of customer service. They have an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and over 3,000 five-star reviews. Give Hunter Clausen a call today at 480-513-3992 or email Hunter directly at hclausen@jfqlending.com. That's HCLAUSSEN at jfqlending.com. JFQ Lending Inc., Equal Access Lender, licensed in over 40 states, www.jfqlending.com. While you're at it, head over to thewolfpacker.com. We've got tons of game coverage up there now, and you can use promo code PACK60. That's promo code PACK60 for a free 60-day trial on all of our premium news, content, and analysis for everything Wolfpack athletics. We're now 5 games deep into NC State's 2020 football season, and the Wolfpack are 4-1 in ACC play, towards the top of the ACC standings as it stands now, and are likely on their way to their first AP top 25 ranking of the season after this week. Granted, it's a weird year. Not every team has been playing, but hey, a top 25 ranking is a top 25 ranking. And you know what? This team deserves it after 3 straight wins, 2 road games back to back, and then they come home and take care of business against a Duke team that seemed clearly outmatched against the Wolfpack. It seemed that NC State clearly had the better talent, and after a slow, sluggish start, they find a way to handle the Blue Devils in Carter Finley Stadium. 31-20 is the final score, and there's a lot to unpack here. It may have cost them some valuable pieces. I know everyone's thinking about Mr. Devin Leary, redshirt sophomore starting quarterback who had played great over the past 3 games here, and unfortunately goes out at the end with a leg injury. I believe this morning it came out as a broken fibula, and he will be out for at least 4 to 8 weeks. He went through surgery, I believe, yesterday or this morning, but we will get into that. But Mike, I want to start this podcast on a positive note because NC State is 4-1. I don't know if anybody that covers NC State or college football for that matter predicted that NC State would have such a hot start to this season. And particularly, I want to talk about one of the main positives from yesterday, which was that defense. 3rd straight game with a goal line stand. NC State does not play when it comes to the 1-yard line. I mean, teams better look out. You got a better chance scoring on NC State from the 25-yard line than you do from the 1, it seems like. But a lot of guys to shout out. I think we got to start with Peyton Wilson, who had 19 tackles yesterday, the most, I believe, since Earl Wolf did it in 2014 off the top of my head. And of course, the linebacker comes up with 2 big interceptions in the game, one in the first half, which really was a much needed spark for the Wolfpack, and another in the second half off of Duke quarterback Chase Bryce. He's the first linebacker to do it since Gerard Fernandez, I believe, in 2012. Mike might be able to help me out there. But either way, Mike, tell me what you saw from this Wolfpack defense, and specifically Mr. Peyton Wilson, who was a man on a mission yesterday.
Also, Peyton Wilson, he came to play. He definitely came to play. He was hustling to the ball. I know that's how one of the picks happened. And, he's an all-around, fly-around guy. He was a guy who definitely shows up on film, and he showed up again. Also, I want to make sure that people saw Lynn Mcneill came through again. He had another big game. This might be a kid you might lose him to the draft pretty early. But fair enough. He deserves it. Peyton Wilson might be a guy, these
He's on
guys
his
aren't
way.
playing some ball. They're playing some football.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, it's you almost come to expect it now with Aleem. I mean, he's just played so well. I know entering this weekend, he was the highest graded defensive tackle according to Pro Football Focus. heading into the week. I don't think that'll change after this weekend.
Nah.
I mean, he's one of the best interior linemen in the country. Now, granted, I know there's some good ones that are sitting out this year. Specifically, I'm thinking Jalen Twyman from Pittsburgh. But man, Lynn Mcneill is right up there with all those guys, and he certainly seems poised to be a guy that's going to be playing on Sundays here in the near future. So good for him. He's playing great ball right now, and you can tell he just loves playing for the Wolfpack. I mean, he's vocal on Twitter. He tweeted last night on to UNC. He's already getting into a little smack talk with UNC on Twitter. I think one of their players, maybe his former teammate or something, it looked like they were familiar with each other. But UNC loses to Florida State in Tallahassee yesterday. They almost come back from a 31-7 deficit at halftime, but didn't get it done down the stretch. Lose by 3 to the, I think, 1-4 Seminoles at this point. But, UNC is going to be on a mission next week, and we'll break that down a little bit, but this is more about the Duke game. But another guy I think we need to shout out, Peyton Wilson's second interception. I mean, he's got to give some credit to your guy, Drake Thomas, who laid the hammer on Chase Bryce, which caused Chase Bryce, I mean, he hit him right in his release, which caused the ball to go up about 40 feet in the air. And Peyton Wilson fielded it like a center fielder, fielding the pop fly there about at the 50-yard line, which ended up setting up NC State's touchdown for them to take their first lead of the game in the third quarter. But, the young secondary, and granted, this all is happening, NC State's defense stops Duke to 319 total yards of offense, 190 passing yards. It was Chase Bryce's first game of the season where he's unable to get at least 200 passing yards. He still throws 3 picks. And that's all without your 2 starting safeties. You lose Jakeen Harris in the first half to a targeting call, which, look, I got no defense for that targeting call. It was a clear target. I'm sorry, Jakeen. You'll bounce back next week, man, but you can't do that. And then Tanner Engel, unfortunately, goes out of the game with an injury. So, I mean, the secondary is running on fumes, and yet these young pups are just getting it done, man.
Yeah, I mean, Dave and his staff have done a good job just keeping the back guy motivated. Those guys are getting some valuable experience. But the crazy part is, in a year that you could have considered rebuilding, you're actually building instead of rebuilding, but you're playing with guys who probably shouldn't even be playing this year. So to be fair, these young guys have to take this experience, but they have to look at it as you're on a 4-1 team. So yes, their mistakes will be made, but at the same time, you don't run into this opportunity too often unless you're at Clemson or in Alabama. And that's a fair thing to say. I think that they need to understand if you can keep winning, this could be a season to remember. So they definitely have to take it serious because at the end of the day, winning is winning. It doesn't matter, COVID, whatever, winning is winning, and you take what you can get. So these young DBs, get as much experience as you can because as the games go on, they're not going to get easier.
No, you're exactly right. And they got 2 tough opponents coming up this Saturday. They got Carolina in Chapel Hill, who, was ranked number 5 in the country. They're going to slip after their upset loss to Florida State, but they'll still be a top 15 in the team in the country. And, they're worthy of that high ranking. They've got one of the best offenses in the country over there in Chapel Hill. And then you get a bye week, which will be much needed as banged up as this team is. I mean, that's how Dave Dorn ended his post-game press conference yesterday. He's happy to be 4-1. Didn't necessarily matter that it was, kind of an ugly game in the first half. They handled the adversity. They came back. They took care of business in the second half. On to the next week. But then after that bye week, they're going to host Miami on Friday night for another potential top 10 opponent. So back-to-back ranked opponents coming for the Wolfpack. They're going to end the game, in the schedule with, some definitely more winnable games towards the end there. So it's looking pretty favorable if you're a Wolfpack fan looking ahead at the schedule. But you got to find a way to get through these next 3 weeks.
Man.
Don't look ahead. And that's what this NC State team has done so well. I mean, look, you and I, we can sit here and look ahead. That's what we do. That's what we're paid to do. But these guys are taking it week to week, and it's working for them. And hopefully they maintain that mentality. And for such a young team, they've shown a lot of maturity this year. I mean, and that's not something that even some experienced teams in the ACC can say. So, I mean, what do you see from that perspective, Mike? Why do you think this team is being so mature?
I think the fact that not on they've had to deal with something no other football team has had to deal with. They had to deal with COVID. They've
Yep.
had to deal with then there's COVID, there's COVID football. Those are two different aspects, and then you got to deal with training, an extended training camp. Then you're dealing with kids who've been just waiting to play ball longer than normal, and they're not being able to see their family and their friends, and things are just different. So I think it's making them more like pros. You're not spending every day talking on the phone with your girlfriend. You're putting in more film study. You don't have as many distractions. You're not seeing girls late at night. Like there's less stuff going on. So it's kind of they're kind of being forced to mature, but it might be good for them. It might be the difference in the season.
Well, I think you hit it right on the head there. I mean, that's one thing that they continuously cite is that this team has just gone through so much adversity this year. After the 4-8 campaign last year, which was super disappointing, all these young players get all this experience. NC State led the FBS last season with the most number of starters. I think it was somewhere in the mid 40s or even close to 50 different starters through the 2019 season. And then you have everything going on with coronavirus and the injuries and the protocols and the turbulence this summer. I mean, these guys have been through a lot, but the one thing that's been in common is that they've all been together through it all. And I think that team chemistry is just, I mean, it's as strong as it could possibly be right now. And it's a formula for success. So credit to Dave Dorn and his staff for, being leaders with this team. Credit to the leaders on this team that have stepped up and built this
Sure.
chemistry. And if you're a Wolfpack fan right now, I mean, I don't know what else you could ask for. This is just a fun team to cover, and it's a fun team to watch right now. To close up the defensive side of the ball, we need to shout out a few more guys. Isaiah Moore with another solid game yesterday.
The linebacker core is dope. They're all pretty. They're all flying around, man. They're all
That's
flying around.
yeah. I mean that's you said it best, man. I mean Isaiah Moore, 12 total tackles yesterday. He gets a half a sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. Drake Thomas, third on the team with 10 tackles. What about Terrell Dawkins, the redshirt freshman defensive end? He's coming up big, 9 tackles himself.
Yep.
He gets a sack too. You already mentioned the Lynn Mcneill and Jalen
Joseph,
Scott.
Joseph came back. Joseph had another sack. It was good to see him get on the board again.
Yeah, and he
It's good to see those guys get on the board. I like to see defensive linemen get on the board consistently, but I mean, those guys they're starting to get more pressure, which is nice.
right. And I think at times when they did struggle yesterday, I would rather see them struggle in this way, which was it was over aggression where they were giving up the yards as opposed to not being aggressive enough. And that's where I think that's the difference between the let ups in the Virginia Tech game and the difference between the last 3 weeks is that when this NC State team has failed defensively, it's simply been due to over aggression. And, if you're going to lose on defense, if you're going to forfeit yards, I mean, look, every team in the country is going to forfeit yards unless your name is Clemson or Alabama or Georgia. But, you know, NC State, this defense has come up big in the past 3 weeks, and the linebacking core is pretty much where it all starts. And another linebacker we need to shout out, Jalen Scott. I mean, what about that interception in the fourth quarter? That was, he was looking like a DB there, Mike.
Probably was a DB at some point.
Probably. But with that said, I think we should touch on special teams too before we move on to the offense and talk about the quarterback situation moving forward. But Vi Jones with a big punt block to end the first half. There was about 50 seconds left on the clock. Duke, I think, called timeout trying to, or maybe it was NC State that actually called the timeout to assign the punt block. But Duke was just trying to escape the half with a 2-possession lead. Duke was in its own, I think, 19-yard line. Vi Jones comes up with a big block. Max Fisher scoops it up and scores it. It's a 17-14 ball game with 45 seconds left on the clock before the locker room. Granted, you would have liked to see NC State's defense take care of business and send Duke to the locker room without any momentum. Duke was able to drive down the field. And, if you had to say one bad thing about Peyton Wilson yesterday, it was the little mental slip up on that late hit, which, watching the replay, it was 50-50,
Flying to the ball,
man.
man. Flying to the ball.
Look, you can't tell the man to slow down. I mean, you
Yeah,
love his
flying to the
emotion
ball.
on the field. You're not going to get 19 tackles and 2 interceptions if he's not playing like that. I thought Chase Bryce might have still been inside in inbounds. It was still live. He gives him a shove, and Chase Bryce fell like a sack of potatoes, which made it look worse than maybe it was. But it picks up the personal foul penalty, puts Duke in field goal position. They kick the field goal, go into the locker room up 20-14. But then second half, it was all NC State. Shut out Duke in the second half. And most importantly, no penalties in the second half. NC State shot itself in the foot with 8 penalties for 106 yards in the opening 30 minutes. And I don't know what Dave Doran said. I don't think it was kind to those guys in the locker room, but whatever he said worked, because there was only one penalty on NC State. It was Grant Gibson, an illegal man down the field, but the penalty wasn't even accepted by Duke. So NC State goes the second half without being penalized at all, or at least any penalties accepted. And they were able to bounce back from the special teams error in the first quarter, which allowed Duke to take the early 7-0 lead. I think it was on the first possession. NC State moved the sticks a couple of times. They had a fourth and long situation. Punt gets blocked. Duke returns it for a touchdown. And then, not to mention Duke's second possession, or maybe third possession, where they scored their second touchdown. NC State forced a three. It would have been 3 and out to Duke inside its own 20. But then I believe it was Mr. Delbert Mims that ran into the punter, which, a little good acting, little good gamesmanship by the Duke punter, but they got the call. They moved the sticks, and they end up going down the field for a long, I think it was almost a 7-minute touchdown drive. So that was probably the lone things that you could call out on special teams, but they bounce back, they get it done, they equalize the score, and you have to pay props to special teams. So Mike, any additional thoughts on your special teams yesterday, and just kind of how important it is to this NC State team to get to 4-1?
Okay, I will say this. A lot of teams ignore special teams, and I believe that, Dave is running out of guys. So some of you starters are probably, if you're not already on there, because I know Thayer Thomas plays a little bit of special teams, you starters are going to have to end up playing special teams, man, and I'm not going to lie. It stinks, but, playing both. But at the end of the day, man, if guys are getting hurt, guys are going down, you're going to have to fill in those roles. And at the end of the day, it might not seem like it's that important, but as you see with that punt block, that was a game changer. When you do things like that, that's a momentum swing that can carry you through a game. Duke probably blocked that punt, and from then on, they had great momentum until they got their own punt blocked. So I believe that, special teams, while it might seem like it's not important, man, if you starters are out there, because you might catch a few starters now. Now the guys are going down. Like, these young guys are going to have to step up and hold it down. I hate it for the special teams coordinator, because with all these guys getting hurt, he's the first one affected. Honestly, he's the first one affected. Because now he's got to make some crucial decisions on, do I start a Drake Thomas on every special team? Because I got guys going down.
Look, back-to-back games with punt blocks, which were big, crucial moments. And NC State can't skimp there. You got to have your guys out there that are going to be able to make plays. And where I think the success has been is that this Wolfpack team has taken pride in their special teams. And that's not something you can say for everyone else in the country, let alone this ACC league. So, look, this NC State team is not a team that's going to overpower teams with an explosive offense, or, just a gritty, bare bones defense that's going to shut you out or prevent you from scoring but one touchdown or a couple field goals a game.
I like consistency, though. They are giving me consistency. And I know what the defense is going to give me now. And I know now, but the thing with Bailey Hockman now, I only really don't know. I have a Jekyll and I have a Hyde. That's all I have, because I only got 2 games.
We're getting there, Mike. But you hit exactly where I was going. This team has been consistent, and it's won the little battles, which end up adding up to the 4-1 record. I mean, if you throw out that Virginia Tech game, this team's looked really good, and they've looked hungrier in every other game, and that's all you can ask for from this Wolfpack team. So finally, Mike, let's talk about the offense. I know you're licking your chops to talk about it. So we got Devin Leary. He has a good game yesterday. He finishes with 194 yards, 1 touchdown. He did throw 1 interception, but 14 for 24, so about a 60% completion accuracy there. So another solid game for him. I know Pro Football Focus ranked him as one of the highest graded players on the offense before he went out in the third quarter. A clear targeting penalty on Duke. When he first goes down, you're worried, oh man, did his head get hurt? And luckily it wasn't a head injury, but potentially something that could keep him out longer than that. The broken fibula, he goes out in the air cast, he gets carted off the field. But credit to Bailey Hockman, who came in poised and got the job done, led this Wolfpack team to victory, because this game was not out of hand when Devin Leary left the game. So there was still work to be done, and credit to Bailey Hockman for doing it. He throws 1 touchdown pass, that very impressive catch by Thayer Thomas off the deflected ball in the end zone, in the corner of the end zone, back corner. But he completes 4-7 passes for 43 yards, and most importantly, no turnovers. I know that's the issue. And look, we'll find out more as the games go along here. I don't think it's necessarily a foregone conclusion that Hockman is the starter moving forward. You
Yeah, I think
also
we don't have to worry about that, probably in, 6 to 8 weeks potentially. But
right.
before that, I think we pretty much got to.
I mean, well, look, I think he's the first. I mean, he's got the first right of refusal, right? I mean, it's his job to lose at this point. He's the experienced guy. He's the guy with the game action. But you got some young guns waiting in the corner too that could compete for some minutes as well. You got the true freshman Ben Finley, Ryan Finley's younger brother, who has impressed Doran in practice so far. He's had nothing but positive words to say. So don't be surprised if you see him over the next several weeks here. I would not be shocked. You also
I
got
don't want
to
to see him.
I know you don't, Mike. I'm just saying, look, I gotta lay it all out for everyone here.
I don't want to see him.
I know you're Mr. Consistency. Look, I don't think you're gonna see him unless it's a situation that requires a change.
Is he a red shirt? Has been red shirting?
Well, there's no red shirts this year because it's kind of a freebie year in terms of NCAA eligibility. This year doesn't count towards anybody's year total. So everyone will go into next year as the same class as they were this year. But it's because pandemic, you don't know who's playing, you don't know who's not playing.
So you could essentially play 5 years.
So basically everyone's on a red shirt this year, but everyone gets to play as much as they want. So Ben Finley is a true freshman, though. He is 1 year removed from high school. You've got redshirt freshman, now third stringer, Ty Evans, who is a highly touted recruit out of, I believe, the state of Colorado. He was a former 4-star himself. I think he's got some wheels. He's got some mobility. So, you got some potential options there, but of course, option A is going to be Mr. Bailey Hockman, who did play well against Wake Forest. We quickly forget that after the Virginia Tech debacle, which, I really think he gets more of the blame than he deserves in that game, because that game was lost on the line of scrimmage. It wasn't lost at quarterback.
I mean, that's what you could do for me now. That's how people live. What was the last thing you did for me? So he gets a little bit of shine. Devin Leary did all the groundwork, but he finished. At the end of the day, the Wolfpack finished a team that they should have beat. And that's what I'm most happy about, is the fact that they finished a team that a lot of other Wolfpack teams in close or the same position would have lost to. So they won the game and they won it. So I'm just glad that he did enough to win. I am Mr. Consistency. I love when with certain positions, I feel like you can throw a million different running backs out there, DBs, whatever, but quarterback, I just don't think it's a rotating door. I think that's a position you need one guy.
And look, all of the so-called Bailey Hockman haters, they will disappear overnight if Mr. Hockman finds a way to have a great game in Chapel Hill next Saturday and the Wolfpack come up with a win to advance to 5-1. The Virginia Tech game will be long history at that point if NC State finds a way to win. So he's going to have his opportunity, and it's going to be, his team this week. He's familiar with the receivers, and there is some benefit to him, now playing 7 quarters of football with the starters in game action. So it's not like you're throwing in some backup that just came in for a quarter at
He
the end of the
presents a
game.
different challenge
Mm-hmm.
on as a defense than Devin Leary does. Devin Leary is going to throw the ball, which I like. He's going to stretch it. He has the arm. He's going to try.
Mm-hmm.
Bailey, the offense might be a little more, dink and dunk, but hopefully, like yesterday, I was very impressed that he even tried the Thayer Thomas in the end zone throw. So hopefully, it takes a little bit of Devin Leary's game and he tries to add it to his own and tries to improve his own resume during this time instead of just thinking, I just want to keep my spot. Try to improve on yourself and go out there and try to win games. At the end of the day, quarterbacks are decided by who wins at the end of the day. You can have the best stats in the world, but if you lose, no one really cares. I mean, if you got a winning record, people like quarterbacks that win.
Well, and one thing that we have to mention with Hockman is that the run game has looked really good when he's been in the game. If you think about the best running performance that NC State had this year, it was the 260 yards against Wake Forest in the opener. Bailey Hockman played every down that game. And then you look at the Virginia Tech first half. NC State did struggle. The running game did, take a step back, but they were still able to move the ball effectively on the ground. They just got thrown off their game plan a little bit when they took the quick 17-0 deficit in Blacksburg. And then in the fourth quarter, it was all the run game. It was all of a sudden it was Bam nighttime, which, I'll call myself out because I thought this was going to be the Bam night game against Duke. I knew he was going to be a man on a mission against the team that he had formerly committed to. He had tweeted earlier on in the week, something like, this game is personal to me. I'm sure somebody grabbed him quickly and said, man, delete that tweet. And he did. It was quickly deleted. And he had that fumble on the second possession. So I think he was a little bit in the doghouse in the first half yesterday, but he finally got his touches there late in the game. And he had a couple back-to-back, 10, 15 plus yard runs to really kind of ice the game, eat some clock. And he also had an important reception on the drive that NC State was able to take the lead. I think he had a 25-yard reception on a wheel route right before Leary left the game, which led to that Carrie Angeline touchdown for the Pack to take a 21-20 lead.
Hey, you know what I say about Big Carrie, man? Every time he scores, good things happen.
Carrie is just like, he's just always that option that's just nice to have for any quarterback. I mean, what else do you want other than a 6'5" big man in the end zone that's going to catch every ball that comes near him?
I keep saying it, man. Hey, kick and ball, man. Just keep giving him the rock in the red zone.
Well, it's now his 4th game with a touchdown, 5 touchdowns on the season for him. If I'm not mistaken, he has the most receiving touchdowns out of anyone on this Wolfpack team. So look for him to continue to be a red zone target. And you have to give credit to the run game yesterday. I know I was talking about Bam, my guy. I'm a self-admitted Bam stan, if you will. But Ricky Person, it was his ball game yesterday in the running back room. He has 84 yards on 15 carries. I think he grabbed a couple more receptions for about 20 yards or maybe 3 receptions there. But it's his second game this season with over 100 all-purpose yards. And look, this running back room looks great, led by, Ricky Person and Zonovan Knight. And then you got the shifty Jordan Houston out there when you need a few yards, a little more explosion or a little shiftiness. He gets 2 carries, but he's the only running back that finds the end zone yesterday with his, I think it was a 3-yard touchdown there. So I think, you look at this run game, you look at Bailey Hockman as the probable starter heading to Chapel Hill. And I don't know about you, Mike, but I think the formula for success against this Tar Heels team is run the rock, win the time of possession. I mean, ideally, you get 40 minutes time of possession. You only give Carolina the ball for 20 minutes. You keep the ball out of Sam Howell's hands because, look, that man's a really good quarterback. His receivers let him down in the fourth quarter against Florida State. They dropped a couple that, I mean, look, Carolina probably should have won that game because Sam Howell gave him 2 great balls on 3rd and long and 4th and long that
they did.
The receivers just dropped, but they didn't. They didn't.
At the end of the day, they
Sam
did.
Howell can throw the ball, but he can't catch them too. And you know what? As little opportunity as you can give that offense, then that is the formula for success. So look for the running backs to really show out against the Tar Heels next week. Can you tell we're a little bit excited for that matchup? It'll be I think it's only going to be like the third or fourth time in history that both of these teams are going to be ranked in this rivalry. So it'll be fun. Noon kickoff on ESPN. And what more can you ask for from the 4-1 Wolfpack? Mike, any last thoughts on the offense or just the NC State Duke game in general before we give out our game balls?
I believe that, you can believe the hype, but at the end of because I said that last week, I said, but now you can believe the hype that they can find a way to win. Now you have another test like Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that don't deny yourselves an opportunity to be great. If they get the opportunity to continue to have success, it's going to be because the guys in that room push each other this week in practice and they really get after it. I do believe they can do it. And if they do, and they go into a bye week after that, I mean,
Yep.
That's the makings of a very, very, very good season and a lot of confidence. That's the biggest thing with college kids, man. It's all about confidence. If you have the confidence that you're going to go out there and play ranked opponents and win, then it doesn't matter if they're ranked.
Right.
That goes out the window. Then everybody becomes the same.
And you know what? I don't think NC State minds at all being the underdog this year. This was the 5th game of the season, and it was the first that NC State was actually favored to win. So they had gone 3-1 in games as underdogs this season. They're clearly, I mean, look, they're probably going to be at least a 2-touchdown underdog going to Chapel Hill next week. In UNC coming off of a loss, you'll lose your starting quarterback, Devin Leary. We'll find out if Tanner Ingle's going to be available. That's important. To me, he's arguably one of the most important players, if not the most important player on that NC State defense. But you've got the confidence, you've got the intangibles. It is a rivalry game. You throw out the records, you throw out the rankings. You got to put the ball down and see who's going to come out and take it. So
don't let emotions get involved.
So
win the game. Don't let emotions throw you off your game, man.
Look, there's going to be a lot of reason for excitement if NC State can steal one of these next 2 games because they're going to be clear double-digit underdogs in these 2 games, as they probably should. But it doesn't mean that they're going to lose. Doesn't mean that they don't have a fighter's chance. So I'm looking forward to it. But before we get into our game balls and before everyone tunes out of this episode, I'm going to remind our listeners, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to us. We are now on Spotify. Finally, all my Spotify followers and listeners, you can finally download and enjoy this podcast on your phone. You can, of course, always download and listen to us on Apple Podcast or Google Play. We also upload this to YouTube. So while you're at it, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Maybe swipe up, if you will. And follow us on social media while you're at it. Our co-host here, Mike Rose, is gracious enough to join us here every week. So please give him a follow at SavageMike90. You can follow me personally at Justin H. Will, and please follow our main Twitter account at the Wolfpacker. And while you're at it, head over to Facebook if you're still on there and give us a like. NC State Wolfpack on the Wolfpacker.com. With all of that said, Mike, let's give out our game balls. I always let you go first. I think, again, there's always a clear obvious, but you always find a way to surprise me. So I'm curious to know who your game ball will go to, Mr. Rose.
Well, I can't fight it. So I'm going to give it to Peyton Wilson. I can't fight him on this one. He ran, he did everything I needed a linebacker to do. And he came up with 2 very big interceptions. So I'm gonna let Peyton have this one, even though he's a candidate for it every week. But I'll let him have this one.
All right, I think that's fair enough. Man, there's a lot of. You kind of threw me off because I was prepared for you to surprise me, and I was gonna, of course, take Peyton Wilson. But, well, I think there's one special guy that I think I definitely need to give a mention to, and it's Mr. Redshirt sophomore corner Isaac Duffy, a former walk-on who comes in, one of the highest graded players on the NC State defense yesterday. He comes in for this depleted secondary that lost both of its starting safeties. Let me find his stat total real quick. He finishes the game with at least a couple tackles, 4 tackles, 2 solo, 2 pass breakups. And I mean, what a great story as a former walk-on to come on. He was a surprise addition in the post-game presser and well-deserved. I think it was the first time. It was definitely the first time this season that the media has been able to speak to Mr. Duffy. So great to see him step up. And look, this NC State team, one of the strengths is its depth. They just keep finding guys with all these injuries and the COVID protocols. And they're pulling, it seems like they're pulling guys off the streets almost. But Isaac Duffy, have yourself a day, sir. Great story there. And if you want to watch his post-game interview, you can check it out at thewolfpacker.com. We have all of the post-game videos, including Coach Doran and then all the players after the game. So go check that out. That was a fun watch for sure. But Mike, any parting words for the loyal listeners at home before we get ready for UNC on Saturday?
Be happy with what you have, but don't be satisfied.
Look, this year has sucked. 2020 has sucked. Everyone knows it. It's been a weird year. Election years always suck. But hey, we've got NC State football at 4-1. What else can you ask for? I think it's been the best part of this year. So to the listeners at home, enjoy it, celebrate it, and find a way to have some fun this week. And be sure to check us out on thewolfpacker.com for all the game coverage. We're going to finish out this game with more great stuff, stats and analysis about NC State's 31-20 win over Duke at home. And then we're going to get ready for giving you all the preparation that you need for the big NC State Wolfpack versus UNC Tar Heels showdown next Saturday, 12 noon on ESPN. So for Mike Rose, thank you for joining us. As always, this is Justin Williams, and this has been the Wolfpacker Podcast.